Hey guys, I'm Soda here back again in another movie review, and today we'll be reviewing Black Widow. So Black Widow is directed by Kate Shortland and features Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, David Harbour, Ray Winston, Ulsa Curie Lanko, I think, and Ever Oba Anderson. So the plot of Black Widow is this movie takes place right after Captain America Civil War and right before Infinity War, so it's between those two movies. And so we follow with Natasha, and she's still working with the government and the colonel, the colonel in the Civil War. Yeah. And so the plot to this movie is it revolves around the villain to this movie controls women. Like he controls like women's minds, like women that are really good at fighting. So he controls their minds, and the only antidote to that is this red thing, like this red bottle that looks a lot like the Pym particle, but it's different. Like it works different. So what that is that's the antidote to make girls snap out of it when they're controlling them. And so they were doing that to Natasha's sister Elena, but then she snapped out of it once they gave her the thing. And so Natasha and Yelena end up like meeting up again, and so them two have to go to the Red Room, is what it's called. The Red Room is where all this is happening, like where the villains at. And so yeah, so they have to go to the Red Room and try to stop all of this from happening. And then they're also being they're also being chased down by this dude named the Taskmaster who keeps fighting them, so they won't be in the way of like their stuff. So Black Widow and Yelena won't be in the way of Taskmaster and the other villain stuff. Yeah. So that's basically. Oh yeah, and then Black Widow and Yelena end up reuniting with their parents to try to stop all this from happening. Yeah, so that's basically the whole plot of Black Widow. Now, did I like Black Widow? Yeah, if I'm being totally honest, this movie was okay. I mean, I didn't hate it, nor did I love it. I mean, it was okay. I mean, it could have been way better. This movie could have been so much better, literally. And if you guys have seen my top 10 celebrity crush video, you guys may know that Scarlett Johansson is my number one celebrity crush. So I was very, very excited for this movie. And literally, this movie was getting pushed back so many times. It was originally going to come out like May of last year, but then it got pushed back to November, then to September, then to November, and then to April, I think, and then got pushed back again to July. Yeah, and finally we get to see it. But was it worth it? Like, was it worth like the time? No, it wasn't really worth the time. Actually, like, I wouldn't really say that this was really worth the hype much. Like, I mean, I wouldn't really like. I mean, you guys don't have to see this movie if you don't want to. I mean, if you guys don't want to, you can like easily skip over it. But if you're a hardcore Marvel fan like I am, and don't want to miss one Marvel movie, then you can probably watch it. And if you love Scarlett Johansson, then you can probably love this movie. I mean, you won't love this movie, but you should probably see this movie. So yeah, but I would definitely say, because like Scarlett Johansson is my number one celebrity crush, and I literally so love the idea that we have her own movie, but it doesn't really live up to the expectations though. Excuse me, I just choked on my spit. So yeah, but I would really say like the biggest positive to this movie are the two main characters of this movie. Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. Yeah, she is amazing in this movie. Like, she is fucking dope. She's so hot in this movie. Like, literally, she is insanely hot throughout this whole movie, and she literally carries this whole movie along. And then another really big positive is her sister, Yelena. I loved her a lot in this movie. Like, she was like, them two were easily the best parts of this movie, and I loved their chemistry so much. Like, their whole duo. Like, they made such an awesome duo. It was so awesome. Like, just their duo alone was what really carried this movie for me. And yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. And I really wish that they would bring back Yelena in this movie. The actress Florence Pugh in another MCU movie, which I don't think this. Which she has been casted to be in the new Hawkeye TV show, and that's when it leads up to the end credits. But I'll talk about that once I talk about spoilers. Oh yeah, this review, for right now, this review is spoiler free. But once I get onto the end of the review, that's when I'll talk about spoilers. But I'll let you guys know when I'll get onto the spoiler side. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna be totally spoiler free right now. I won't give away much spoilers, so you're safe right now. So let me think. Is there anything else I should say about this movie? Oh yeah, the other characters too I thought were pretty cool too. Like I really liked Red Guardian. I thought Red Guardian was really funny too. Red Guardian, like he was hilarious, and I just like all the scenes with him were super funny, and he was really cool throughout this whole movie. But I just wish he had more scenes with action though, like more action scenes and a bit more screen time. But he was cool, and I'm so glad that David Harbour joins the MCU and plays a really cool character. Yeah, David Harbour, as you guys may know, played Hopper in Stranger Things, and Stranger Things is my favorite TV show. Let me see. So yeah, Red Guardian. Yeah, he was dope. And then we get on to the stepmom. Like there's this girl in the movie. I forgot her name, but I know her hero name is Iron Maiden. But I forgot her name in the movie. But she was. I mean, she was okay. I mean, I wasn't really interested in her all that much. I found her kind of boring actually. The stepmom, like she was just super boring, and there was so much so much stuff with her was very very confusing. Like I'll get to that once I talk about the spoilers. Let me think. Oh yeah, and that's another huge positive about this movie too. Is at times this movie does get super confusing. Like this movie, like the plot, like kind of gets a bit jumpy at times, and it gets super confusing. Oh yeah, that's another huge negative about this movie is the plot. This plot could have been so much better. Like I wasn't really interested in the plot all that much. Like this plot wasn't all that great, but the plot is nowhere near as bad as the plot in Wonder Woman 84, and this movie is not nowhere near as bad as that movie. That movie was fucking awful. Yeah, but this plot, I would say the plot. Yeah, like I said, the plot wasn't all that interesting, but it wasn't like a bad plot, you know. Let me think. And this movie does get pretty boring at times, actually. Like at times, like this movie does get a little boring. Let me think. Is there anything else I should say? Any other character? Oh yeah, let's get on to the villains to this movie. Which of the villains are another huge negative about this movie. I hated the villains so much in this movie. These villains were so fucking bad. I did not give a fuck for Taskmaster, or don't even get me started with the main villain, Draco. I did not give a flying fuck for him. He literally was not interesting at all. He was fucking boring. I hated every moment he was in screen, and I could never get into his character at all. He was just definitely one of the worst MCU villains, actually. Like, definitely in the bottom of the MCU villains, most definitely. And I would definitely say this Black Widow movie would kind of somewhere be in the bottom of the MCU movies for me. Yeah. So yeah, but Taskmaster, he had some pretty cool moments, but like his whole character, like by the end of the movie, like I was just very weirded out at, and I wasn't really interested at. I wasn't even interested in Taskmaster like as a character, but the action sequences he was in I thought were really dope actually. Like the scene where they're driving around in the street and like he's shooting the bow and arrows at them and he's trying to find them in the subway, and I thought his shield was really cool too. And then I really liked the scene in the beginning where Natasha and him first fight in the bridge, like when they're fighting in the bridge and he's trying to get the suitcase. That scene was super dope actually. A positive about this movie would be most of the action sequences. Like most of them were really cool. Let me think. Is there anything else I should say? So yeah, the villains, like I said, very whack. So yeah, that's all the characters in this movie. So yeah, there were only just like two really great characters. Red Guardian was a good character, but he wasn't great though. But he was very close to being great though if he had more of a character. But other than that, everyone else was boring. So yeah. Now let's talk about the scenery and the setting. The scenery I thought was fine. Like this whole setting, like I really like the setting. Like this movie doesn't really take place in cities much. Like it mostly takes place like in like big fields and lands, and there's only like one or two scenes that are like in cities. Yeah, but I thought that like, they did a good job with the scenery and the green screen and all of that. I thought that it all looked real. So yeah, and the effects looked really good actually. Like these effects were pretty good. But I would say that some of the action sequences in this movie kind of look a bit blurry actually. Like some of them like look a smidge blurry, just a smidge. But like I wouldn't really consider that a negative. I mean, kind of a negative, but sort of like it's like a nitpick. But it's only just once or twice where you can tell that the action sequence it kind of gets blurry. So yeah, but all of the effects, like towards the end of the movie and with the end battle, like I thought those effects looked real. Let me sing. And the soundtrack to this movie, like the soundtrack, this movie didn't have like a huge soundtrack to it, like a big score to it. There wasn't really much like music or beats to it, but I thought the soundtrack was fine, and I really liked the other like the background music too, like the music that plays like world music, like when they're in the radios and all of that, like when they're in the car and they're listening to the music. So, like I thought all those songs were pretty good. Uh, Let me think. Anything else I should say? As far as performances go, I thought they all did really, really good, actually. Like, all these actors were really great, actually. Like, Scarlett Johansson was, again, awesome as Black Widow. Florence Pugh was amazing as Yelena, actually. Like, I thought Florence Pugh was, like probably one of the best performances in the MCU, actually. Like, she's up there with the Avengers for me, actually. Like, yeah. And Rachel Weisz was I guess she was fine as the stepmom, and David Harbour as Good Guardian I thought was really good. I didn't really like Ray Winstone's acting as Draco. Like I thought he was very off actually, but I really like the beginning of this movie. Like okay, I'll get to that once I get onto the spoilers. But I'm just gonna say the beginning of the movie, like the first 15-20 minutes or so, I thought were awesome. Actually, like I would definitely say that or like this scene within the cabin was the best scene of the movie. Yeah, so the first 20 minutes were amazing actually. And I thought the actress that played Natasha Romanoff when she was little, I thought she did amazing actually. Like and I would really be down to see her in more movies. Ever Oba Anderson, that was her name. Yeah, I'm down to see her in more movies. Yeah, and as far as comic relief goes and comedy, I thought most of this movie was really funny actually. Like this movie had some really funny moments actually. Like there was this one scene where Yelena was like, whenever you're saving the world and you're working with the Avengers, like why do you always do poses? And she does that funny pose she always does. Like she tries to do it but she can't really do it, and she's like shaking her head. Yeah, that scene was super funny. And then like later on, she ends up doing that pose and she's like, I just did a pose. She said something like that, I think. Yeah, so I thought that whole thing with the poses was really funny, and I was even wondering the same thing too. Let me think. So yeah, like I said, comic relief was really funny in this movie. The pacing. Ooh, the pacing, another negative to this movie. The pacing was very, very wobbly, actually. Like, the pacing was very jumpy. A lot of scenes were timed well. A lot of scenes went by really slow. A lot of scenes were really rushed. And this movie was, like, 2 hours and 10 minutes, I think. But it kind of goes by kind of slow, actually. Like, you do feel the runtime, actually. Let me think. So, yeah, the pacing was pretty bad to this movie. And I thought Kate Shortland could have done a much better job with directing a Black Widow movie. And let me think. Is there anything else I should say? And this movie like tries to get suspenseful at times. Like it tries to put you on edge, but it just doesn't work. I mean, most of the scenes weren't really suspenseful actually. But there were some scenes that I would say were kind of like got me at the edge. Those were the action sequences with Taskmaster, the two I just talked about, the bridge and the car sequence. Excuse me. So yeah. Is there anything else I should say before I get on to spoilers? Okay, I'm gonna say my rating to this movie right now, just in case you guys haven't seen this movie. So for the people who haven't seen this movie, I'll just say my rating. My rating for this movie, I was thinking maybe I should go for a B- or a C+. Like a C+ actually would. I mean, but there were a lot of good stuff in this movie I had fun with, so I'll probably just give this movie a B-. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm gonna get on to some spoilers now. So if you have not seen this movie, leave this review right now. Like, I'm now gonna get into some really deep spoilers actually. So, okay, spoilers. 3, 2, 1. You have been warned. So the biggest spoiler to this movie is that Taskmaster is actually a girl. Like Taskmaster was the Dreykov's daughter, I think. Yeah, it was the main villain's daughter. And she died. She almost died from like exploding, but then he was able to save her and control her, and then that's what makes Taskmaster. I did not like that at all. Like that was such a bad take on Taskmaster, and they could have done a way better job with Taskmaster honestly, because I really love Taskmaster in the comic books, and I would always love playing as him in the Marvel vs. Capcom game. In the Marvel vs. Capcom 3, like, that's one of my favorite video games, actually. Like, I would always love playing as him, and I even had the Lego for Taskmaster, too. Yeah, it was from that Lego set from 2014. So, yeah, Taskmaster was a person I was really, like, I really loved, and I was so excited for them to bring in this movie. But they did not handle him very, very well. They did not handle her, I would say. Like, I hate that, the fact that it's a her. I mean, I never knew much about Taskmaster from the comics, but I knew that he was a cool character, though. And I definitely know that Taskmaster in the comics was skeletons. Like, he was skeletons in the comics, and in here he's just a fucking robot. Well, like, well, what the fuck were you thinking with doing that? You should have just made him skeletons, like he was in the comic book. How cool would that have been if he was a skeleton in this movie? Just, like, literally, like, they just completely ruined the whole cool aspect of Taskmaster. Yeah. Now let's get on to the beginning of the movie now, the first 20 minutes. I really love the first 20 minutes with young Natasha and young Yelena, where they were just living in Ohio, and they were kind of like living a good life at first. Natasha was just riding her bike all around the street, and then once they get home, like the dad, like Red Guardian is Natasha's like stepdad, like they're adopted. Like Natasha and Yelena, like they're not even real sisters, actually. Like, they both come from completely different parents, and Red Guardian and the other girl, like, are not even their parents at all. They're just like their adoptive parents. Let me think. But that whole scene was really emotional, actually, and very you really feel very bad for Natasha and Yelena, cause Red Guardian and the other girl, like, take them away. Like, they take them away to like the military place, and Dreykov, like, takes over them, and he completely ruins their childhood, and like makes them like go into so much dangerous places, and like so much like what was I gonna say? So much dangerous stakes and all of that. Dreykov literally, like, he raises them, but he literally, like, takes away their childhood. I mean, he doesn't really raise them. Like, he just treats them like if they're like just like his test subjects, or his slaves, or his slaves. Like, yeah. So yeah, and I thought the whole part was like, cause she literally like went away when she was 10, and this all happened to Yelena when she was 6. So they all had really sad childhoods, actually. So yeah, those whole scenes were really cool. Anything else I should say? Let me think. So yeah, and then I really like the scene where Red Guardian is escaping from jail. Like, they're trying to like break him out of jail in the snow place, and that scene was pretty cool. Let me think. Anything else I should say? For spoilers. Oh yeah, the main villain, Dreykov, like, at the end. Let's talk about the scene I really enjoyed. Towards the second act. The cabin scene. Now, I really love the cabin scene where they all meet up for the first time, and then like they're all sad because of their sad childhoods, and then like Yelena goes to the room, and then like Red Guardian's real name was Alexei. Alexei tries to cheer her up by saying all this stuff, and then she's like, "You never cared about us. You just cared about yourself and your whole Red Guardian stuff, and you just really want to go back to those old days." And then it was like, oh. And then he sings her the song that she really loved, that they really loved to, like, singing together. They would always jam out to the song in the radio. I forgot what the song was called, but he sings the song to her, and then that makes her have good memories back, and then that makes her cheer up. Yeah. Anything else I say? So yeah, I thought that whole cabin scene was really good too. Very emotional. A lot of emotional moments in that scene. So yeah, the cabin scene and the beginning were easily the best parts of the movie. And then the end battle to this movie, I mean, the end battle was fine. I mean, it could have been way better, actually. Like, the end battle could have been so much better, and I wasn't really interested in most of the stuff that was happening in the end battle, and a lot of stuff didn't really catch my eye to me. But I did like the scene where Red Guardian and Taskmaster like fight, but it goes on for very little though. Like it's very short their fight, and I just wish it was longer actually, because like I said earlier, like there could have like we could have had more screen time with Red Guardian, but he doesn't really like get much screen time. Yeah, same with Taskmaster too. Like Taskmaster's barely even in this movie for very much. Like they like literally throughout the whole second act, like he's gone and he doesn't even show up to the third act of the movie. Like literally, like his main battles were just in the first act, but then the whole second act he does not even make just one appearance. But the whole fights with him in the third act I thought were fine. Like the Red Guardian fight I thought was cool, but like I said, I wanted it to be longer. But the fight with her and Natasha when they were falling down I thought was fine. Let me think. And let me think. And then the whole stuff with Draco, how you can't touch him because when you smell him, like you can't put any violence to him. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, how the fuck does that make any fucking sense? And then like you can touch him like once you break your nose, like once you like hurt yourself or something like that. Like, the whole shit was so fucking confusing. And, let me think. Anything else I should say? So yeah, and then, like, Draco dies really fast, too. Like, when the airplane explodes. And then Taskmaster, I don't know if he dies or not, because, they take off the mask and then they put the red antidote into her. But I don't know if she died or not. And yeah, and then the whole stuff with the other girls too, when they gave them all the antidote, like that whole part I wasn't really interested in much. And like yeah, that whole part wasn't like that whole part I just thought, oh, okay, it's just there. Like I just thought that whole part was just there when they all cure them. Let me think. Anything else? But I did think the end did have a lot of emotional moments, like when Yelena was like about to sacrifice herself, but then Natasha was barely able to save her. Let me think. Anything else I should say? Okay, another spoiler is that oh yeah, this part was funny where she had another friend too. Like she had this other friend. Yeah, I forgot his name, but it was another friend. Like he was African American, I think, and he was really funny actually. Like, he had a lot of funny moments. And then towards the second act, like he was like she told him to give him a jet, but then he just gave them like a shitty plane, and he's like, well, you didn't give me any time or money for this. But then at the end of the movie, he gives her the whole Avengers jet, and he's like, you see, this is what happens when you give me time and money. Yeah, that part was funny. And then she says that she's gonna try to break out all her friends that were prison after Civil War. Because remember, like they were all like locked up in Civil War. So I liked how they explained like how they got locked out of there. And then I really love the end credit scene a lot too, where it shows what happens after Endgame. Cause like she's dead, and like Yelena visits her tombstone, and then the stepmom is like, well, you should try to avenge the person who killed her, and then she shows him a picture of Hawkeye, and then yeah, that whole end credits I thought was fucking awesome, which it shows Hawkeye, and so that's probably, and I really hope that that's gonna be the plot of the Hawkeye TV show, and I don't know when that's gonna come out. They haven't set the full like release date or trailer to when that's gonna come out, but I'm hoping maybe sometime in December, maybe. Yeah, but that'd be really cool if the Hawkeye if that's the plot for the Hawkeye TV show. So yeah. I think that's it for spoilers, actually. So yeah, that'll be the end of the review. Bye, and see you all in the next review.